people here today.
I know, this is crazy.
Crazy, oh my God. I wonder how, I wish I'd been here for the opening.
And there's a
but I wasn't.
band.
I mean, that's crazy. I hear they're really talented-ish.
Yeah, well,
I hear 3 out of the 4 of them are really talented guys. And one wants us all to die. There he goes. Thank you, boys. Well done. Well executed.
The other thing I thought was, during your monologue, was it was going a little long, and I thought, well, it's not cutting into the first guest's time at all.
What's the first guest going to do?
Yeah.
Not show up?
Yeah. If the band had just left the stage and you could have just kept going.
I know, but then we wouldn't have had our awkward transitions that we
I do look forward to that. Before I forget, I need to make an announcement.
Okay, everybody be quiet. Robbie has an announcement. Everybody bring it
They're
down.
already pretty...
Bring it down, please.
I mean, I think they're already listening.
Please sit down.
Well, they're sitting.
Okay.
I'm going to be playing a show in London tomorrow night. Well, if you didn't know about it, now you do. It's at a place called The Borderline.
Are you asking them?
Yeah. No, and actually there's a question mark in the name. The Borderline. And anyway, with my friend Paul Corella, who's Scottish. Go Scotland. And anyway, yeah, that's happening tomorrow night. So if you feel like you want to just keep the party going, I will be.
Robbie, his music, his buddy Paul, and his drug-filled beehole will be there.
That's right.
Playing music.
Yeah. Hopefully no customs officers will be there. Also, speaking of keeping the party going, Jensen this morning was like, what'd you do last night? And I was like, yeah, we hung out. Rich had these friends in town, you know. Probably stayed up too late, but it was a good time. He was like, all right, well, tonight. I was like, I mean, it's 9 and I'm barely awake, you know. I was like, what about it? He was like, tonight we ride. All right, man.
What are you guys riding?
Where are we going? I don't know. I don't know what we're riding. I don't know what our destination is.
Well, send me a postcard.
But you're coming.
God damn it. Tonight, I don't know what you're doing, but tonight we sit.
Tonight we eat a healthy meal.
Tonight we veg. Robbie,
Richard.
I don't know what she said.
She said, King Kong.
Agreed.
Back at you.
Should we, let's take a question, I guess. Hi.
Hi, my question's for Rob. And obviously you're both multi-talented, like Rich directs amazing episodes and Rob, you write amazing music. But Rob, how do you draw your inspiration for writing music compared to writing things like Kings of Con and other things like that?
It's a good question. Thank you, and thank you for saying that. Writing music is like a diary. It's very personal to me. Sort of the emotions I put into the whatever kind of story I'm telling or emotion I'm trying to talk about. It's just a very personal thing. And when I originally started writing music, I never thought anyone would ever hear it. But I've kind of kept that as part of my process. It's coming from that very personal part. It's like the part of me that feels like I got no other way to express this except through singing it, through song. Whereas writing something like Kings of Con, it's just a different thing because I'm really just trying to make Richard laugh. Honestly, that's our writing process. Is we write and then we trade scripts and go off in the corner and read them. And if he's laughing, I know that I've done a good job. And
we had an interesting thing in that process to add to it that was different. Rob has a strong writing background with pre-meeting me, and I've been doing writing myself. And so this, for me, this is a little different. I don't know if this is how you've worked before, but because we were basing a lot of Kings of Con on things we had either experienced or witnessed, or were using some sort of truth in the shows, that we kind of built the house backwards. Like, we would have a central joke or moment, and then build a plot that would work that into it, which I thought was interesting. We'd go, okay, these things will happen, because you're great. Now what story do we build to encompass this joke?
Yeah, and the way we came up with a lot of those little bits were real life scenarios of stories that had happened to us, and we wanted to fictionalize because that was too good to not.
We still keep a list. We keep a
list of funny things that happened to us that we want to put in future episodes. So so that's just really about making Rich laugh. And then Rich and I recently wrote something that was more like a thriller, dramatic thing, and I penned a lot of it while he was away directing. And again, it's just kind of the way that I work. That's why I like working with people, my motivation is trying to write something that Rich is going to be happy with. Even though it was a dramatic thing, it gives me a focus. You know what I mean?
Well, if you know somebody's going to see your work, right? Like you do a different job if you're handing it over to somebody.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm sure if you're writing for a network, you want to write something that NBC's going to like.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, and you know, with Kings of Con too, there were a lot of things we couldn't wait for you all to see. We're excited to write. We're like, oh man, people are gonna love this. This is gonna be good.
Like we keep a list. So, for example, if we're lucky enough to get a season 2 of Kings of Con, and if you happen to watch Kings of Con, and if there happens to be a scene in which I'm not wearing pants and I have Rob and Mark tattooed on my butt cheeks, you'll know it was born here.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
I haven't watched all of Kings of Con yet, but I plan to. I was wondering, how would your characters cope at an English convention, and if that's something we could possibly see if you get renewed?
Yeah.
How would they cope with the English? I think they'd have a tough time with the language barrier.
Yeah.
I think they had a real tough time because they don't speak British English, and I think that'd be very difficult for them.
Yeah. So it could be funny things.
You know?
Someone talks about putting something in their boot.
Yeah, as I say, they'd go to a boot sale and be shocked by the limited number of boots on sale. And in a desperate moment, Rich would be scrambling trying to find a rubber, and the fistful of erasers that he gets from the pharmacist wouldn't really do the trick.
Not knowing what a lift is.
Rob is excited when he thinks he has a date with polystyrene, and it turns out it's just a takeout container.
Right. Yeah. So stuff like that.
My friends polystyrene and aluminium are coming over. The show writes itself, really. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
You.
Hi. I just want to ask Rob, do you, loud and Swain, any plans to tour Ireland? And Richard, how are you enjoying being back in Supernatural?
Rob, you know?
We have no plans right now, but I would love to. I've never been to Ireland, and I love it. So I love.
Well, you really don't want him to go to Ireland? We've never been to Ireland.
These are both welcome.
Thank you.
Well, tell them.
I would love to. So soon, I was saying in the meet and greet that we're going to be probably doing less conventions next year, which is going to allow the band to have more time to travel and tour. So we will be.
Real quickly before I get into the directing answer, it's a known fact that I don't have the best hearing in show business, and so when she asked that question, her accent threw me a little bit, and I thought she said, "Do you have any fans in Ireland?" And I thought, that's a tough. I mean, how would you know that metric? Like,
Dad, I said, do you like?
yeah, then one.
There's one.
And what was your question about?
For you, is how do you like being back on the show
Oh,
as an actor?
yes, I love it. It's really fun. Completely unexpected. I don't know. I know you guys are at various stages of watching the show. There's some gal. We try not to do spoilers. We try not to. We try to understand that you guys haven't seen everything. So we try not to spoil, but there was somebody in one of my meet and greets, we were going around and I was finding out where they were in the show. She's like, I just finished season 7. I'm like, well, some things are gonna get spoiled. It's gonna be that's a little too far back.
She still thinks I'm a prophet.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell them the story though about Andrew Dabb telling you you'd be back.
Oh yeah, so I was directing episode 7 back in the fall of this season, 1307. And Andrew Dabb and I were on the phone, Andrew Dabb, the showrunner, and I were on the phone discussing details of that episode. And he said, oh, by the way, you're coming back. And I go, I know, I'm directing episode 20. And he said, no, you're doing that, but you're coming back as Gabriel, you're making an appearance. And I said, oh my gosh, really? Wow, crazy. He said, yeah, at first it's just a quick pop, we just see you for a split second. I'll send you what's called the arena, which is a detailed treatment of the episode before it goes in the script form. I will send you the little portion that has your part in it so you know what you'll be doing. And he sent me the paragraph, and it says, you know, has everybody seen this? I mean, sorry, season 7 lady, I apologize. It says, Asmodeus opens the door, and there's Gabriel, you know, beaten and bloodied with his lips sewn shut. And I thought to myself, did my wife pitch this idea? I feel like
It was me.
let me tell you something. It was a little like I Am Spartacus. A lot of hands rose. They're like, no, it was my idea. I think he got that. He was overwhelmed with that idea. It was also really fun to go back and do it. I had been working with that crew, obviously as an actor previously, but truly I've been putting a lot of time in as a director. I shadowed 3 times. I directed 4 times. I've been spending a lot, and directing is very encompassing time-wise, and you work with the crew very closely, so I had gotten to know the crew really, really well, more so than just as an actor. And so then I'm going up there to do this bit, and the prosthetic they had on my mouth really did, on the later episodes, they made it where I could, you know, breathe. But the first shot was so quick, they just kind of put the apparatus on, and we shot the scene. And I walked on set, and truly, it was like, slow golf clap, and people going, my God, he can't say a thing. He's been telling us to do. Like, it was like, I mean, truly, it was like
Like
a
the
slow,
electricians in the back, like.
I mean, truly, guys coming out of the carpentry shop, dropping their hands. So thrilled to see me speechless. It's so rare. It's unbelievable. And the funniest part is Jason Fisher, who works in the office. A lot of you may follow him on Twitter. He's very active on there with the show. And he was like, okay, man. So I was flying up. I did that right before the Christmas holidays. It was the last day of shooting before they went on break. And so I'm coming up there, I'm doing 2 hours of makeup, I'm getting all bloodied up, but on the phone call before, he's like, okay, so you'll come up, you'll do your scene, and how do you feel about wearing an elf costume? And I'm going, an elf costume? I read the episode, I don't remember that. And he's like, well, no, I mean, since you're here, man, we figured we'd have you MC the Christmas gift giveaway that we do on set. So I went from being bloodied and sewn up to going, all right, and the winner of the Cuisinart is Kyle from painting. Well, the weird thing is, I did have that problem. They were going to have me do it between takes, and then they didn't realize that I was going to be completely sewn up. So then Craig, the producer from upstairs, had to come down and do it, and he's just miserable. He doesn't like attention or talking on microphones. So then he was just kind of mad at me. I thought you were going to do this. Anyway, the scotch goes to. But it was awesome. It's been really fun to go back beyond that one part, to go back in. I mean, without giving away story, because I don't want to ruin it for people, but I got to direct an episode in which I was also acting, and that was, going back in the show in episode 13, led to one of the greatest professional challenges and opportunities of my life in directing an episode that I was also the main guest star in several different capacities, and that was an awesome experience. So it's been amazing. It's been really, really cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. You.
I had the pleasure of seeing you guys in New Orleans for Halloween, and Rich, your costume was amazing, but I was wondering if Rob could treat us to your impression of your outfit.
Your impression of your
Oh,
outfit?
you're supposed to do David S. Pumpkins.
Oh. Me?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I
want you to tell the whole, first, let's just do this whole
Yeah.
story. So, first of all, thank you for the compliment on the outfit. I have to give props to that because one of the women we're fortunate enough to work with is a woman named Victoria. You can probably see her. I think she oversees Jensen Jared or something on Sundays. Anyway, she's been with us forever. You've probably seen her around if you've done creation events. She's also a very, very, very talented makeup artist. So she did our makeup. She did all that stuff for us, and she's awesome. And so we were lucky to have her on the roster to use her talents to help us look creepy.
Yeah.
Now, Robbie, you.
So there was this Saturday Night Live sketch that Tom Hanks did where he played a character named David S. Pumpkins. And funny thing about the sketch is that he's not scary at all. He's just wearing a pumpkin suit and he's got a gray streak in his hair, and he just goes, "I'm David S. Pumpkin. I'm David S. Pumpkin." And he's like supposed to be at a scary theme park, and the people riding the ride are like, "This is not scary at all. There's nothing scary about this." It's one of those things that was so stupid it became funny the more you watched it, which it turns out nobody had. So to most people, I was the same thing that Tom Hanks was, like just a guy in a pumpkin suit going, "I'm David S. Pumpkin."
Well, the funny part was Rob in the green room. We were trying to figure out what to do in the city previous to this. So we were wherever we were before New Orleans. We're trying to figure out what our costumes would be. Rob had the "I'm be David S. Pumpkins," and crickets. None of us knew what the hell he was talking about. And he showed the picture, and we're like, "No, we don't get it." You were so mad that nobody had heard of David.
No, it was really frustrating. Victoria was the only one who was like, the makeup artist.
Yeah.
Like, I know who that is, and I think that's hilarious.
And David S. Pumpkins has two sidekicks, right? Two
Yeah.
ghost dancers.
Right.
And you had Hillary and Victoria.
Or Hillary and Kat, I think.
No, it was
And Victoria.
And Victoria, they were
three did.
they were all his backup dancers, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was really stupid and funny, and I think I was the only one laughing. So then on actual Halloween back home, I put it on to take my kids trick-or-treating, because it's also a really easy costume. You just throw on a suit. And I'm walking down the street, and like all these teenage kids, they must watch Saturday Night Live, they're like, "Hey man, are you David S. Pumpkins?" I was like, "Yes! That's exactly who I am."
I'm not the one kid there.
And then this one guy goes, this teenager was also dressed as David S. Pumpkins. I was like, "Hey man," he's like, "Dude, nice outfit." And then I go, what do I say? No, well that's David S. Pumpkins. Goes, "Any questions?" No, but what did I say to? I said something like, "Yo, bro, like catch you later." I said something real, trying to be cool with the teens. I said like, I said some word up or something really dumb, and he was like, it ended. He was like, "Oh, that's weird." And my son who's like 14, was like, "Oh my God, Dad. I can't believe you just said that."
I like that you going, "I did it as Pumpkins." Didn't embarrass him, but you being actually you. Being yourself ruined his night. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Love you guys.
Thank you.
You.
Hello?
I lost my voice yesterday at the concert.
Fantastic. Means we did something right. She lost her voice at the concert.
Guys, everybody look around your seats. See if you see a voice. She lost her
It was a
woman's voice.
We were in the
Lost her
concert last night,
concert.
so
Thank you for that, Rob. I'm really angry at you. But my question is like, how do you approach being God and being Gabriel as a contrast to being a king?
This is really handy. It's great. I love having Rob on stage with me because Rob actually is fluent in Braille. So he's able to translate.
how do you and I approach Chuck and Gabriel as opposed to being a janitor and a writer?
Oh, well, I mean, that's a tough thing to answer because when I started the show, I wasn't Gabriel as far as I knew. So it wasn't like I had this secret acting plan to slowly reveal who I was. I mean, I kind of got hired to do one episode. And 19 years later, here I am. But I got hired to do one episode playing that one character. So, to me, I focused on that journey. And then it was later the writers started linking it together, built a mythology out of it that it became what it was. But at that point, that episode was done. So there was no real approach difference. And it was like, you do that episode, play the role as scripted the way you're given it, add your spin to it, and then wait and see. I mean, there was no assumption I'd ever come back, so that was always a surprise, and just sort of, I just played the cards I was dealt when I would get those scripts and trying to figure out from there. Did you know you were doing more than one when you got hired?
No.
Was that a thing?
It said to be continued at the end of the script, but they all say that. But I didn't realize that at the time, and I was like, "Oh, to be continued. This is exciting." They haven't talked to me about the next episode yet, but I'm assuming I'm still. So, I only knew about the one episode. But the first episode I was in was so well written. The journey that Chuck takes in that episode, it was all just on the page, because he doesn't know anything. He's just this hack writer. He kind of hates himself. And then, then he finds out he's the prophet from Castiel, and he's like, what? You know, and so that was easy to play. I'm a what? I'm just what? So that was easy. And then, you know, by the end of it, he's like, you know, I'm the prophet Chuck, and nervous as he is, he's sort of like come to terms with that. So that was all just kind of in the script. So that was easy to play, you know. The tricky part is then when he finds out he's God. When Rob finds out he's God was tricky. Anyway, but like I said yesterday, I found that out at the end of season 5, and I was so happy that I finally got to come back at season 11 and play that, because I had known about it for a while, and so I had been thinking like, ooh, how would I play God? And so that was a scary moment too, because it was like the first scene I did coming back in season 11. You checking the news or what's going on? Rich has heard this story many times. But no, when I came back in season 11,
I got a thing.
Bob Singer's directing, and my first scene where I was like in full God mode. The first scene I was shot with Curtis. Anyway, and so I was like, I'm just gonna do it, and then they'll tell me if this is not what they imagined. So I kind of like did sort of my God version of Chuck, and Bob was like, that's it, it's perfect. And I was like,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You.
Hi there. I can't choose between you, so is it all right if I ask you both questions?
No, I'm sorry. This is
it's the Rob or Rich pin. Not the Rob and Rich. You know what? For you, we'll make an exception. You're
Rob or Rich. That's good.
Okay, so for Rich, what is your favourite episode that you've directed?
Ooh, that's a tough one. But I guess the answer is kind of easy. It sounds weird, but I feel a close kinship to all the episodes I've directed, because to me it's a very challenging artistic experience, and so you bury yourself in it and you connect with the scenes and the characters, and so suddenly you find yourself really tied to each script that you get assigned. Obviously the first one, Just My Imagination, will always be near and dear to my heart, because it was the first time I ever got to direct television, and that was a surreal experience. I started flop sweating about 4 months before I got the script. I mean, I was never been more nervous in my life. And that episode gave rise to some cool characters like, Sully and Sparkle, and it was a really fun episode to do. But I gotta say, if I'm just going by favorites, the one I just did, episode 20, because of the challenge of being in it as well.
It was a really good episode.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was really great. I loved that Gabriel came back. I loved that they told some of his story, and I won't ruin it for people who haven't seen it, but they walked us back through time and explained a little bit of his journey. And I thought Meredith were a fantastic script. They did a great job with that. And it was just such an enormous challenge to do that episode. I mean, again, I'm not, because I don't want to step on anybody's toes who hasn't seen it, but just out of curiosity, how many people have seen episode 20?
That's a lot of people.
A lot of people. And then how many people haven't? And it's not a pretty good number. Anyway, the point is, you guys who've seen it, you get why it's so challenging, right? I mean, there's a lot of things in there. You go like, oh, that's.
There's a fight sequence in particular that's tricky.
And so it made it real challenging. But it was awesome. So I think I feel a closeness to all of the scripts. It would be episode 20 would be my favorite, and then Just My Imagination a close second.
Cool, awesome. And then also for Rob, any plans for Chuck to come back?
Yeah, I've been making plans.
Just you.
Yeah, just me. It's a one-man show called My Plans to Come Back. Yes, there's always the possibility that Chuck will come back. I mean, they certainly talk about God a lot, don't they?
They do.
I think when, I have hopes that when the time is right, the writers will bring me back. I don't think we've seen the last Chuck.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You.
I just want to ask if Gabriel is on full grace again, if he maybe is able to track down God and where he could find him.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, great. So this is exciting. This is a new.
If Gabriel's on Full on Grace, where are you in the show, kid? No, seriously, like, are you up to date? I don't know, like, again, you guys...
Yeah, I am.
I know this is a
just missed
nation
the
built
last
on stealing the show, so... Say it again?
Yeah, she is.
I just missed the last episode.
Okay.
There was
Well,
coming on the
okay,
Thursday.
so that's what I was wondering, because Gabe's not on Full Grace, so I don't think he can track God yet. So that we
I actually didn't see the episode from this week either, so I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Either. I'm with
So
you.
it's not...
I was like, yeah, Full Grace. Oh, he's not, so that's not.
Lucifer is a Full Grace. Maybe, you know, you could do yourself.
I'm done with him.
Yeah, sorry. It's out of my powers. Sorry.
All right, thanks.
Must be real nice. Just
Wash my hands of that
nothing
responsibility.
I can do. My hands are tied, but
Sorry, man. I would, but, you know, the grace. You.
So a lot of emphasis is placed on the whole Jensen and Jared friendship and how adorable that is, but I think you two could give them a run for their money in the friendship stakes. So I'm quite interested in the origin story. Like, was there a moment where you looked at each other and thought, yeah, let's be friends?
totally. There's a moment.
In the origin story of us?
Our meet cute. Rich, aren't we adorable? You know,
I was, as you're asking the question, I'm like, does that mean she's saying we're better friends than Jared and Jensen aren't friends? Or are we, like, how does the friendship give another friendship a run for its money?
No, I think what she's saying is that, you know, a lot of people talk about Jane and Jay and how they're really good friends.
They're
in
really
real
good
life.
friends, yeah.
And she says I think it's worth noting that you two are also.
Well, if you want to know some of the origin story, and this is all true, and Rob will back me up, it's 100% true, is that Rob was ice cold and didn't remember me the first 5
I'm not
times
gonna
we
back
met,
you up.
and it was
That's not true.
heartbreaking because Rob and I have been in Hollywood the same amount of time, very similar types, so we've crossed paths a lot professionally.
So before Supernatural, he and I met a couple of times. I remember meeting you at a commercial audition, or at least seeing you and thinking, oh, that's the guy that does all those commercials.
No, the way you said, I remember seeing a dude who looked like you, I think.
Sure.
But I specifically saw Rob in a couple of things. Went to a pilot taping.
I met you at the pilot, I remember that.
And I went over and I'm like, hey, Rob, my name's Rich. We had a lot of friends in common. I'm like, oh, you went to college, blah, blah, blah. Great job in the pilot, man. Really cool. Oh, thanks, buddy. Thank you. Thank you. Cut to, we're doing Supernatural. So now, we never did Supernatural together, obviously.
We'll do Supernatural and Halloween.
It was Halloween. So we're Halloween, and Rob was trick-or-treating with his kids, and I was as well. And he was over in my neighborhood, and I went past him, and I'm like, and at this point, I knew that he had been on Supernatural, and I had been on Supernatural, but we hadn't crossed paths. But I saw him at Halloween, I'm like, hey, Rob! And he goes, have another pleasure. I'm like, I'm Rich.
And like a 3-year-old. I was like, oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, good to see you.
And then he autographed a piece of candy for me and gave it to me. Later on, my son was like, Dad, why does this twig say keep reaching for the stars?
And why can't I eat it? Because it means specialty. Specialty, son. And then there was
I went to a movie.
Movie gate.
And I took my wife to a movie, because that's the kind of guy I am.
That was a good time.
I said, the sky's the limit, one candy and a popcorn. But other than that,
it was a matinee.
We went. There's a bar area at this theater in Hollywood, and I go to up there, sit down with my wife, and I look over and across. There's nobody else in the bar except for the other far table where Rob and his wife were sitting, having a cocktail before the movie. And I looked at him like, dude. Because I don't know, I just didn't think I could take the beating again, you know? I went to the bar and I ordered a drink, and the bartender's like, hey man, are you from Supernatural? I go, yeah. And he goes, and that dude over there from Supernatural? I'm like, yeah, sure is. Why are you guys talking to each other? And he never remembers me, man.
And I get a bad rap with that story. I remember it completely different. I didn't see you in the movie.
Yeah, because I was done.
I didn't realize I only had 3 shots. It's funny, now that I know you, I know that you're like that too with people. You're a bit, no, they doesn't remember, I don't know if I want to, and then once you break through, you're like, that's a great guy, what a great guy that guy is. Yeah, and so then, my band played Burbank, we were paired at the same convention, we were at the same convention, and we officially, I think, kind of met, but it really wasn't. That's when it sunk in, And so, yeah, I remember he watched the show, and he was like, it's a good show. Good band. But you could tell you still weren't sure about me.
I had to get, this is the funny thing, and one of the guys has a picture of this. I went to talk to the band, but I didn't know the band, so I just got in line.
We used to sign autographs right after right after the show at night. So then Rich comes up to the autograph line, like waiting. Richard's great. Sure.
I don't know why one of the guys in the photo, they were taking, Mike or somebody was taking a picture of something else, but in the background you see me.
There's a picture of him in line. But it wasn't until we went to Rome, my first trip to Rome, which was his second, 7, 8 years ago, that we really bonded.
Yeah, that was it. So our origin story, the post Rob being a turd part starts in Rome, and we had a phenomenal time. That's when we realized we had similar senses of humor.
We made each other laugh.
We ended up I think we flew there together, and because isn't that the time where I said this is gonna be wife?
No, that was later, because that was when we knew each other in Jason.
But we got to Rome, and
but it was the
Sebastian and Chad Lindbergh, and you
and me walked the streets of Rome. It was when we did the bit about the movie.
This question's for Jim?
No, the movie that I was trying to say. What's that movie? Source Code.
Source Code. Yeah. You guys should ask Jensen Ackles, because he said yesterday, he's like, I think, he goes, as an adult on the planet, I think, this is Jensen speaking, he said, I think the hardest I ever laughed was Rome that year. There was something really, like, like, if you go to dinner with friends and somehow all the dominoes line up and everything is just funny and everything is, it's just, everything works. And that was one of those trips where we were all just cracking each other up. And that was where Robbie and I kind of got to know each other and realized we had a simpatico sense of humor. And this was really crazy. He remembered me. And that was a game changer.
I still do.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you, that was excellent.
By the way, that origin story is longer than our relationship. Yep.
Hello, my question is for Rob.
Yes.
Are you planning to come to Sweden anytime soon?
She wants to know if you have any fans in Sweden.
I would love to. Norton, the drummer, our drummer, is his lineage is he's Swedish. He's American Swedish. So he was just there. He came early for this trip and visited family there. So yes, I would love to. I don't have plans, like right now I don't have a ticket booked. But like I said, next year we're going to have some free time, and so maybe we'll do a European tour and hit Sweden.
Robbie and I have a very good friend who's Swedish.
Who?
Frida.
Oh yeah.
Frida, the makeup artist, one of the makeup artists on Supernatural, is from Sweden and is a lovely person, and her accent brings us great joy. She was talking recently about a show she's watching. She's like, and I know the accent's terrible. Just go with me. She's like, yes, I was watching a show. It was really good. I don't remember the network. I'm pretty sure it was Hulu. I'm like, what? It's like Hulu. I'm like, Hulu? Yeah, Hulu. Like, when you say it, it sounds delicious. I'd take a side of Hulu. 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 It's some sort of Swedish mating call. Hulu.
British people, I notice, say, for H, they go, H. H. I say, how do you spell your name, Helen? H. E-L-E-N. What's the first letter?
Could somebody spell Healy for me? E. E. Thank you for your question.
That's easy. I love you too.
You.
Hi Rich, hi Rob, lovely to see you. H. Okay?
You got a callback joke?
Yeah, H.
Hold on.
I wanted to compliment Rob on the monster at the end of this book. I love that episode. I think that's one of my top 20.
Oh, that's awesome.
I actually, what?
I don't know. I think making the top 20 out of 270 ain't shitty, you know?
That's a compliment.
I know.
It's a huge compliment.
It's a fantastic episode, and it really, I loved your bit as well in it.
Are you laughing because it sounds like it's in my top 150? No, thank you so much. I agree. I think that's a really well written
and
episode.
it was a key story as well.
For sure.
I had sort of, my question was kind of for Rich, but it's been answered a bit. I was going to ask what was your highlights of the episode you've been directing. You've kind of said that. I wondered what was the best bit about diving into Just My Imagination. I absolutely loved that episode. I wonder what really sort of, what were your favourite bits of that?
Okay, so Just My Imagination was just a fantastic script. And I loved everything about the script that Jenny wrote. And I know we always come here and go, I love the script. And that may sound like a BS answer, but it's not. I love that script. What was interesting about it is, everybody, we were talking about like, oh, it was a funny script, you got a funny script. And I never thought that script was funny. I always thought that script was incredibly heartbreaking. Because to me, it wasn't a story of two guys fighting a demon. It was stories of two little boys who were left to fend for themselves. And I found it very, very emotional for me. And, you know, it's interesting because I did that. I pulled my own childhood a lot. Like when they were talking to each other upside down in the bed. That's how my cousin and I used to talk to each other. We'd lay across each other, be upside down. And we would just draw dots on our chin, so it looked like we had little chin people when we talked. But you know, we do this kind of things, and you know, there were some people. Just to go off point, I saw a lot of comments online, which of course I always preach to you not to do, but I fall prey to it myself sometimes of reading comments and stuff. And people kind of took issue with that script that Dean was held responsible for Sam being left alone. I don't think that's how I don't think that's the story at all. I think it's the dad's fault. And Dean is just doing what Dean knows to do to survive. Because in that scene, in that episode, Dean is also a kid. And kids don't know how to make adult decisions. So Dean doing whatever Dean was doing in that script, I thought Jenny did a great job. Dean may have come across as harsh or as Sam holding him responsible, but that's because that's the role that Dean filled in the absence of a solid parent. So I think that was a beautiful nod to their relationship early on. Not an indictment of Dean, but a sort of a revelation of the cold hard facts of what it would have been like to be those boys at that time.
I love Sully's conclusion.
Well, this is like, and the other thing is that I cannot stress enough was finding Nate Torrance to play Sully. Nate Torrance just knocked the leather off the ball. And I knew when I found him, I knew when I was reading the script that it was going to take a powerhouse performer to pull this off. Because if you hire a clown, you're going to end up with nothing. I did not want a comedian. I wanted an actor who could be funny. There's a big difference. We read people in Los Angeles, we read people in Vancouver, and Nate Torrance sent in his audition, filmed on his iPhone in his kitchen from Cleveland, Ohio. That's how I found it. Sent it into the casting director in Los Angeles, sent it to me, and I was like, that's the guy. Now Nate is a successful actor. It's not like he wasn't already a guy who was working a lot. He works all the time. But I never met him. I saw him do the scenes on his wife filming him in his hallway or whatever, and I was like, that's the dude.
Does he live there?
He lives in Cleveland, yeah.
That's crazy.
And So Nate came and it was just fantastic. Jensen and Jared and Nate worked seamlessly together, and all the work. I mean, there were moments for me. It was an emotional episode for me because I was getting the opportunity that I'd been striving for nearly a decade. I was directing television. It was an amazing experience. But then watching Nate do what he did, Jared and Nate together were fantastic. Jensen and the three of them were all fantastic. The sequences that got me were, and I say this all the time, honestly, I was so choked up watching it. We take for granted that we know each other. We're all friends. But, and when I got to see Rob Benedict on the monitor while shooting Kings of Con, I was like, that's a funny motherfucker. Like, to see people do what we actually do. Not this, but that, the acting. And I sat there and watched Jared deliver that monologue about having to go back into the cage while he's talking to Nate. And that's just a goddamn good piece of acting by Jared Padalecki is what it is. And it's a beautiful scene. And I staged it, and I've talked about this a lot. I staged it, I put Jared, and I talked to Jared about it before, it was very planned. Just go back and watch that episode. I make Jared short in every scene. I put him in the hole, I put Dean out of the hole while he's digging. I put Jared on a small chair and Nate on the lawnmower, so he's elevated. I wanted Jared to, the internal boy, to show physical manifestation in how I placed Jared in the scenes. Because Jared is so ominous and tall, but when you look up, that's a vulnerable look. And so the camera doesn't see Jared from that angle much. And I wanted the camera to see that. I want to see him from a state of vulnerability. And the only person he would show that vulnerability to, probably Dean at certain points, obviously, but would be Sully, this person this character that he trusted as a child. And so sitting him low and sitting Nate up and doing a slow push in on Jared telling that scene was one of my favorite moments of the whole episode. It was just, and I remember we did it, I got totally choked up. We did 2 takes, both of them were home runs. And literally I watched them out and I'm like, good. I'm good. Jared? You good, bud? Good? Moving on. It was so beautiful. And then the other scene I loved in that episode was Anya Savnik, who's now on a show with our buddy Ron Livingston, called Loudermilk. She played Reese, the girl who was the one killing the Xana. And she had that bit at the end where Dean is talking her off the cliff, trying to convince her not to kill Sully. And Jensen and her, Anya, in that scene, are fantastic as well. And it was just, and I just loved, I always wanted to direct. And I'm finally seeing these words on the page and finding the actors to play them. I found Anya, I found Nate, and I'm watching them do these things. And I'm watching Jared and Jensen do what they do at the expert level day in, day out for the last 13 years. And it was just phenomenal. I just felt like I've been given this amazing gift to be able to do what I'd always dreamt of doing with people who do it better than anybody in the business. And it was an amazing experience. I will never forget. Thank you.
Enjoyed it so much.
Thank you.
I think I always say too about when I do it back in season 11. So impressed.
Say it again?
I always say that too, because in season 11 when I went back, I'm just impressed with the level of acting that Jensen and Jared are continually doing. They're bringing 110% to a show they've worked on for 13 years. They're not phoning anything in.
You can't, it's impossible for people to understand without sort of pulling yourself. You love the show. You love the characters. You're like, of course it stays on the air. It stays on the air because they're nice guys, because they care, and because they're incredibly talented. It has to be all 3 of those things. You can be incredibly talented and a douchebag, and the network's not going to want to deal with you. Or you can be incredibly nice and, good looking and just lame, and the acting, doesn't hold up, and eventually it won't stand up. They're incredibly talented. They show up to set. I've directed them now 5 times. They show up to set. They know their lines. They've made their choices. They show up ready to go. And you find me 2 other lead actors who are on a show 13 years later who care as much as they do. I can't imagine it exists.
And who know these characters so well. They're like, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, they're loyal to the characters. Like, nope, Sammy wouldn't do that. We're going to change this around to be this or whatever. It's truly amazing watching them do what they do. And I said, we all joke around. We're all great friends, and we're fortunate that our little traveling group of misfits have a great time doing what we do. But when the dust settles, we go back to the set to do what we're actually doing that got us on this stage. You got two of the finest, and you throw in Misha Collins, you literally have, I'd stack them against any show on cable or anywhere, three of the finest actors I've ever seen working in the business in those gentlemen. And it's a pleasure to watch them do what they do. You.
Hi. So what do you guys do backstage to pass the time?
Drugs. Drugs. We have
Different kinds of
drugs, and then we
It's not
have
always the same kind of
drugs, and then we have a lot of prostitutes backstage. The band likes prostitutes. Billy, he talked about how much he works with Satan, which is really he has an unbridled love for the Dark Overlord, and so
I can't believe how much he was talking about. Now you've done it. Now you've done it.
He's going to make me give blood again.
There's a green room. We always have a green room. We actually have two green rooms. One is on paper supposed to be the band green room so we can practice and not bug people. But we all end up, everyone gathers in the band green room.
And Hollywood trivia, it's never green. Never green. Go figure. That's where we, great conversations. It's really quite boring. The truth of it is, Misha always is laughing about how, we're a rock band, but we're like discussing what book we're reading. Oh, we sit around and talk politics and the news of the day and about our families. And truly, I think the biggest conversation, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, yesterday was minivans and what and what I should do now that the Honda Odyssey is seeing better days. I mean, truly, it's kind of like I come out here and we joke about. A lot of times the jokes that we're telling on stage, we're literally just carrying over from what we were talking about backstage to on stage. I remember one time Misha came on stage for a panel and was joking about how we were backstage talking about making fruit leather and sitting around talking about how to make the best fruit leather.
Yeah.
And it was a hilarious bit.
Which sounds like code for something else, but they're actually talking about
fruit leather.
Fruit that you make into
like roll-ups.
Yeah.
And it was the audience thought it was hilarious, but it was actually true. That's what we've been backstage talking about, nutrition and green drinks and whatnot. Well, let's take one more quick question.
Let's take one more quick question.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
I was just wondering, really simple question. Just if you could be any character on any TV show except Supernatural, who would you be and why?
I'd be Judge Judy. And I would dispense justice with an even yet firm and snarky hand. Ready?
You already are. You already are. I would be, what's Dinklage's character on Game of Thrones? Tyrion Lannister. I'd be Tyrion Lannister. I think that's one of the most fascinating characters on television. And
I'm going to change my answer.
And Peter does such a great job at it. I mean, obviously, no one could play the role but Peter.
No, dude.
But I would want.
I'm going to change my answer. I would be Khaleesi, and I would never leave my castle. Whoa! That's Rob Benedict! That's Richard Spade Jr. Thank you, UK! All right, we're going on break, everybody. Get some fluid, hydrate. It's supposed to be Christmas.